Welcome to Latin with Andy Code Breakers. Today we're going to be talking about the third family in our noun neighborhood, the third declension. Let's review our noun declensions and the adjectives that we've learned by doing this sentence. Multa praemia amicis laetis damus. Okay, let's go one word at a time, but let's start with the nouns. So the first word there is an adjective. Let's go to praemia. The stem is praemi, the ending is that so this has two options: neuter, plural, nominative, or neuter, plural, accusative. So it could be the subject, could be the direct object. Okay, amicis, the stem is amic, and the ending is is, so this could be masculine plural dative or masculine plural ablative. But we can cross out the ablative because we don't have any prepositions. That means that laetis, which is right next to it, is probably modifying it and would also be masculine plural dative. Okay, that means we have an indirect object, and you know what that means? We also need to have a direct object. So that means praemia is most likely the accusative, or direct object. So multa, if we look at that ending, that ending, is going to be neuter, plural, accusative to match praemia. So we have a direct object. That also means that our subject is most likely going to be contained in the verb, because we haven't found a subject in our nouns yet. Damus. The stem is the D, the conjugation identifier is that A, and then we have a mus. Look at the cipher on your right and see what this form is. The mus tells us that it is first person plural, and then since there's no tense identifier, it's present tense, happening right now. So this will translate as, we give what? We give many rewards. Multa means many, praemia means rewards. So we give many rewards to happy friends. Or we could also say this as, we give happy friends many rewards. Those are two ways you can do it to translate that dative. Great job, guys. So far we've talked about declensions that basically have one gender assigned to them. Remember, first declension is basically all feminine, unless it names a job, then occasionally it's masculine. Then second declension is usually masculine, and occasionally it's neuter. Third declension, however, which is what we're about to talk about here, can either be masculine, feminine, or neuter. All three of the possible genders. So we have another little cipher here that will help you be able to uncover what gender your third declension noun is going to be. So let's go real quick through the steps and see how to identify the gender of your noun. The first step to identifying the gender of your third declension noun is basically just to check if it has a natural gender. Is it actually male? Is it female? Check that first before moving on to these following rules. Okay, the next step is to check the nominative singular ending. If you've already checked and it doesn't have a natural gender, like it's not naturally just male or female, it'll be pretty obvious, then check these rules. If your nominative singular form, remember it's unique, ends in ER or OR, then it'll be masculine. If it ends in S, O, or X, it'll be feminine. And finally, if it ends in L, A, N, C, E, or T, any of those options, then it'll be neuter. Sometimes though, even after following all the rules and getting those rules all right, sometimes there are a few little pesky nouns that just don't follow the rules. But don't worry, those will be marked in your vocabulary. You'll see their gender in parentheses. Okay, let's try identifying the genders of some of these third declension nouns. Our first noun is rex regis, that means king. Remember, first step, check natural gender. Well, look at this. Rex regis means king. A king is naturally male. So this noun is going to be masculine. Pretty easy, right? Now, if we were to skip that rule and move on to our other rules, the SOX rule would say that this is feminine because we see rex ends in X. However, we check the natural gender first, so this is masculine. Our next word is fulgor fulgoris, which means lightning. Does lightning have a natural gender? No, it does not. So that means we move on to checking our nominative singular rules. Our nominative singular ends in OR. Where do we see that fit into our little cipher here? Well, if it ends in ER or OR, it is masculine. And this one ends in OR, so this noun is masculine. Okay, next noun is veritas, veritatis. It ends in an S, the nominative singular. That follows the SOX rule, which means this is feminine. Okay, the next one is Grumman, Grummanis. This noun ends in an N. That is one of the options in our LANCET rule, which means that Grumman, Grummanis, is a neuter noun. Fascinating, right? Our next word is awis, awis, which ends in an S, which makes it feminine, right? Okay, the next word is flos floris, which means flower. This one ends in an S, so it looks like it would be feminine, right? However, this is one of those pesky little nouns that just doesn't want to follow the rules. And notice, the gender that is going to be is marked. It is right there. The little M there in parentheses means that this noun is actually masculine. So that is something we're just going to have to memorize. That flos floris is an exception. It is actually masculine. Great job, guys. The third declension noun family kind of has 3 stories, or sort of 4, but we don't really talk about the 4th story. It's more like an attic up there. But it really just has 3 main stories to this declension. So 3 different variations, basically. And right now, first, we're going to be talking about the first story, the basic story that most of the third declension nouns fit into. And so here is how you will decline your third declension nouns, or most of them here. So first, the cool thing about any third declension noun, though, is that all of them have the same genitive singular ending, that is ending. So if you want to know if it's a third declension noun, you go to the genitive singular, just like always. You go to the genitive singular. And this is kind of the reason why we've been looking at the genitive singular, because the third declension kind of has a lot of unique different variations for the nominative singular. Every single noun has one unique nominative singular, and so you're going to have to go and memorize those when you do your vocabulary cards. So make sure and work on that. Otherwise, look at these endings and see if you can find any similarities to things you've already learned, and try to work on declining it and memorizing it. Let's take a look at the third declension endings. The first one we like to call various because each nominative singular is unique. So the first one is various, then we have is, e, m, e, ace, ibis, ace, ibis. See, so they kind of look a lot like some of our other declensions, so practice memorizing these endings. How about we try declining pax, pakis, which means peace. First, we find the stem. Taking off that is ending in the genitive singular, we get pac, pak. So copy that down 10 times all the way down. Pak, 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 pak. Okay, now we can add on our endings. First of all, the nominative singular has to be that pax. It's unique form, right? So make sure you've written that one there. And then we can add on the rest of the endings. Is, e, m, e, ace, ibis, ace, ibis. Thankfully, third declension nouns are translated just like any other noun. So we can say nominative singular is the piece, and then of the piece, or just of piece we could say. 2 or 4 piece, the piece again as a direct object, and then by, with, from the piece. And then we just do the plural of all those versions. On to identification. Let's see if we can identify these forms of the third declension. Number 1, pacem. Okay, this is the word we just practiced declining, so we can see the stem there, the pac. M is the ending. Now look at your key. What is the gender, number, and case? Okay, remember, pax, pakis was this word here. So if we look at that x in the nominative singular, we can see that it follows the SOX rule, which means it's feminine. So this is a feminine noun, and then it's going to be singular and accusative because of that M ending, which would translate as the piece. Paces has an ES ending, which would make it feminine plural nominative or feminine plural accusative, both of which would just translate as piece, as in a lot of piece. Then we have paki. Paki would be feminine, singular. Do you know the case? There's only one option. It's dative, which we would translate as 2 or 4 piece. And then finally, pacibus. There's 2 options for this one, pretty easy to find on your key. Feminine plural dative, or feminine plural ablative. The dative we would translate as to or for piece, and ablative by, with, from, piece. Awesome work, guys. Alright, now we're moving on to the second story of the Third Declension household. And the cool thing, or the interesting thing at least about this story, is that it almost looks exactly the same as the first story, all decorated the same and everything. There's only one change, one little change. It's not even changing a whole ending, it's just modifying an ending. And that is going to be the genitive plural. Isn't that a fun one for them to pick, to change up? So, the genitive plural changes now from a um to an IUM, just because they wanted to make things interesting. So, we're going to be talking about different rules that help you identify which nouns are going to be fitting into the second story and which nouns belong to the first story. So the first rule we're going to cover right now. The first rule has to do with how many syllables it has. Syllables is basically how many times your mouth moves up and down as you're saying a word. So like watermelon has 4 syllables and conjugation has 4 syllables. So if your nominative singular and your genitive singular of one noun match in the amount of syllables, like watermelon and conjugation, then that means they are going to have that I stem. They live in the second story of this house. Otherwise, if they don't, then they are going to belong to the first story. One happy thing about this rule, though, is just that if they match in the amount of syllables, generally that means that they're exactly the same word. So if you look at this example here, we have awis, awis, which means bird. Notice that the nominative singular and the genitive singular are exactly the same. So that's one really easy way to identify whether or not this is going to be an I stem noun or not. Live in the second floor. The second way that we can tell if a noun has that I in the genitive plural is to see if the stem of the noun ends in 2 consonants. Basically, any 2 letters other than A, E, I, O, or U. So look at this example, nox, noctis. First we find the stem, taking off that IS in the genitive singular. Now look at the stem. The stem is N-O-C-T. C and T are 2 consonants, which means that the genitive plural of this noun is going to have an I-U-M ending. So let's decline it. First, we put nox, the nominative singular, into its proper place. So put that in the nominative singular spot. Then we can copy noct all the way down the rest. And after doing that, we add on our third declension endings, which are, starting from the genitive singular, is, e, that I with a macron, m, e, ace, and now genitive plural is ium, I-U-M, ibus, ace, ibus. Awesome. Identification for I stem nouns is just like normal. We just watch out for the little I before the in the genitive plural. Let's look at number 1, awi. This comes from the word awis, awis. You can see it there in your cipher. Since this noun does not have a natural gender, we look to the nominative singular, see the S in the ending, which means it applies to the SOX rule, which finally shows us that this noun is a feminine third declension noun. So that means when we look to our noun to find the form, we can circle the F for feminine. Now looking at our key, we see that that I ending is the singular dative ending. There's only one option, which we would translate as to or for the bird. Number 2, noctium. Uh-oh, do you see that IUM? We just practiced declining this word. Nox noctis means night, which means it does not have a natural gender. Looking at that X in nox noctis, the nominative singular, that shows us that it is going to be a feminine noun. Okay, so now look at the ending, the ium. What is this ending? Well, it's going to be a feminine plural genitive, the form that has that I, um. We translate that as of the nights. Number 3, noctes. Alright, same word, which means it's going to be feminine, as we said. The ace ending, though, we see in our key to be either feminine plural nominative, which we would translate as the nights, or feminine plural accusative, which we would also translate as the nights just as a direct object. Last one is awibus. Okay, this one we said was a feminine noun. The ending there in our key we see to be feminine plural dative or feminine plural ablative. The dative we would say translate as to or for the birds, ablative by, with, from the birds. Good job. See, I stem is not very much different from the regular third declension. Third declension neuter nouns live in the third story of our household. The cool thing is they're a lot like second declension neuter nouns, which we've practiced before. And the reason why they are similar is because, just like the second declension neuter, the third declension neuter has the nominative and the accusative always matching. So even if you have a interesting ending in your nominative singular, the accusative singular is going to be matching that nominative singular. So if you have a word like Grumman, for example, that's our example here, then the accusative singular is also going to be Grumman. It's not going to have that em on the end. And then, of course, like the second declension neuter, the nominative plural and the accusative plural are changing to that a ending that looks kind of like the first declension, but is not quite. So practice memorizing these endings and declining third declension neuter nouns. You guys are becoming pros at this now. We're going to be declining flumen, fluminis, which means river. Notice this, well, first of all, river does not have a natural gender, but flumen ends in an N, which is part of our LANCET rule, which means that this is a neuter third declension noun. Remember, third declension neuter nouns have the nominative and accusative always matching, so that means that the accusative singular is also going to be flumen. Now all we have left to do is fill in the rest of our blanks with our stem, flumen with an I, and then add on the endings that we need to add on. So that is is, e, and then skipping accusative singular, we've already filled that one out, e, a, ibus, a, ibus. And then we can add in our translations. Great job, guys. Let's do some identification with our third declension neuter nouns. Our first one is Grumman. Okay, first of all, let's check the gender. Grumman, grummanis means grass or plant. That does not have a natural gender. So now we look to the nominative singular, see that N, which shows us that is a neuter third declension noun. Okay, now that we've covered that, we can find the ending. And this one, of course, is our special unique ending. So this has two options because it's neuter. This could either be neuter singular nominative, which is normal with that unique form, or neuter singular accusative because the nominative and the accusative match. Both of these would be translated as the grass, or just grass. Okay, now skipping down to number 3, flumina. Okay, first we find the stem of that, which is flumen. Remember, this is another one of our third declension neuter nouns. We just practiced declining it. The a ending there could be two things: neuter, plural, nominative, or neuter, plural, accusative. This is just the plural form of our third declension neuter nouns. Both of these would be translated as the rivers, just one as the subject and the other as the direct object. Watch out for those double forms. Good job, guys. Alright, codebreakers, let's do this. Since we've been doing a lot of identification recently, I'm going to be going through these sentences a little bit faster than normal. But don't worry, you're going to have plenty more time to practice translating with the third declension in the videos that follow. Let's start with the first sentence. Avis fulgorem videt. Okay, always here is going to be either feminine singular nominative or feminine singular genitive. Two options. Fulgorem has that m ending, which means it is going to be masculine singular accusative, direct object. And then we have videt, which is singular. So that matches with our subject if always is going to be the subject. We could have two options on translating this. One of them is a little bit less probable. The first one, having always as the subject, would be the bird sees lightning, which makes sense, right? The genitive singular option would be he sees the bird's lightning. Now, unless we have a story of a bird wielding the power of lightning with a magical hammer, then I don't think this is going to be a very probable option. Let's just go with the bird sees lightning. Second sentence. Homines veritatem amabat. Bont. actually. The first word is homines, which has the two options of masculine plural nominative or masculine plural accusative, subject or direct object. We don't know yet. Where tatem has only one option, feminine singular accusative. That means it is going to be the direct object. So that means we can also cross out the direct object option for homines. That is going to be the subject. Looking at amabant, we see that this one, because of the B, A, and the NT, is going to be third person plural imperfect tense. So to translate, this will be men were loving truth. That's a nice sentence. Alright, last one. Rex in flumine est. Okay, rex is going to be feminine, not feminine, masculine because of the natural gender, right? Singular nominative, always check the natural gender. In goes with ablative, it's a preposition. Flumine is going to be neuter singular ablative because of the preposition. And then we have est. Est is one of our forms of sum. It is going to be third person singular present tense. So this will translate as the king is in the river. I am not sure what he is doing in the river, but I guess the story would have to tell you. Alright, good job, code breakers. Keep on working and practicing breaking this code. Fantastic work, code breakers. If you want to keep code breaking with me, subscribe for more videos. If you haven't already, download the worksheet that goes with this lesson video. Purchase the at-home code breakers worksheets to continue to enhance your Latin studies. Otherwise, keep watching for more code breaking fun. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. See you guys later.